Let me show you how I set up my deals. You guys want to see that? Okay, because I do it differently than Gene Trowbridge does it. I do it differently than Dave Lindahl does it. So this is what I do. Here is the LLC that owns the property. Okay, that's 123 Main Street LLC. Remember, that's it only owns that one property. Then what I do is I have whoever's going on that loan will have a LP, limited partnership. So these will be this is going to be my sponsor, and this is going to be, say, me, or it might be Ed. I never put both of us on the loan, okay? That's what the bank sees. It's all the bank sees, okay? That line and up. Then, here's where all my investors go. So you can't find them. You can't find them anywhere. And they don't go on the note. But, and these are all little LPs or LLCs or IRAs or, whatever. So those are my investors. Now watch this. This is how they're secured. They own a portion of the limited partnership that owns a portion of the LLC. So now they're on the deed, but no one can find them. But they're completely secure. You guys see that? Okay. So these are limited so this is the big LLC picture. This is what when you go down to the Hall of Records, you find this LLC, 123 Main Street LLC. I have it'll say that the person who owns that, the managing member, is, say, it won't say Sue Nelson, by the way, but let's just say it did. And I would never have it say that because I don't want anyone to see my name on there. So Sue Nelson Limited Partnership is the managing member of that. And then the owners of that, you can't find them anywhere unless you go to my file cabinet, period. So it protects my investor, and they're very protected because they own, this says they own 3% of sponsor, LLC, LP. This one owns 6%, this one owns 10%, but they own a portion of this limited partnership that owns the LLC. So now the bank doesn't see them, and the creditors don't see them, and mean attackers don't see them. That's how I do it. Yes?
And how do you determine on your investors who is on the sponsor side?
How do I determine who's on the sponsor side and who's not? I basically keep them all off, period, if I can help it. So if I have enough meat and potatoes in me, enough assets, enough liquidity, enough experience that I can be the sponsor, then I keep them off. But if I need someone with a lot of liquidity and assets, then he who gives me the most money goes on the note. And hopefully that does it.
Yeah, that's not my question. I asked my question poorly.
Okay, but to come up here then and ask it poorly. Yeah, we can put this down now here. Thank you. You're released. Release
Hello?
me.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. How do you determine who is here and who is here?
Oh, there is no determination on that at all.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. However, I will typically, rather than, in fact, I would typically, rather than put my investors under a sponsor, I would put all of my investors on this side, under me. And actually, that is actually not true. that I don't spend any time determining that. This is why I determine it that way. Because if I want to, okay, I am going to control this property no matter what. Even if I own 2% of this property, I control this. By the way, I would never do, because I have no interest in buying a property that I only own 2% of. But even if I did, I'm going to hold the only 2 voting shares in the property, or I might give like 1 voting share to the investors just to make them feel better. But there's no way they're going to outvote me, because none of my investors want that. My investors want Ed and I to run the property. So I'm going to have all of the voting shares, or most of them. So it doesn't really matter if I own more or not, okay? But look at this diagram. Sometimes when you're taking out a loan, the bank wants to see the person who's the bigwig, and I'm pretty matched with the person who's the bigwig now because of my experience. Sometimes they want to see one of us own more property than the other, because they want that security that the person who's in charge owns more, or they're more invested, or whatever. So it is true that I will use the investors who own a portion of those limited partnerships. I will move them to wherever the bank really wants to see more. So if I put all of my investors on this side and only my sponsor on this, and the sponsor only owns, say, 20% of the deal, then that's going to make it so this limited partnership owns 80% of the deal, and the bank's going to think that I own 80% of the deal. But if I put all of the investors over on the sponsor side, because maybe that's what the investor, the owner, they want to see that, the bank, then I'll do that. So it isn't true that it doesn't matter. I mean, I do play with it. So that's good. I would rather see my investors under me, just because it just makes it cleaner. I don't want my investors to all know each other. That's not healthy, to have your investors all know each other. Most of my investors are extremely wealthy, and they have no desire to be known by everyone else. I'll tell you, once Equity Trust, IRA companies are very hard to deal with, but you deal with them because and I have some good ones now. Custodians are hard to deal with. So I used Equity Trust, and I couldn't believe this. They were so, I don't even want to go into it, but I will tell you one thing. They CC'd all of my investors. And now I had only about 10 investors on there, but I had 18 accounts, because other investors will put in like 3 different accounts. They CC'd it so everyone saw everyone. And you know what I got? I was livid with Equity Trust. And Equity Trust was like, oh, I don't see why it matters. Well, you're a dumb, there was $2 million that went through Equity Trust. And they CC'd everyone. And then my investors complained that other investors saw their information. So you see what I'm saying? I mean, they didn't see their personal information, they didn't see their account numbers, but they just saw their contact information. So your investors don't necessarily want to know each other, and they just would like to keep it that way. They're very high, I have very high net worth investors, and they're just not interested in any kind of, if there was any solicitation. Nothing happened, I'm sure. I mean, my investors are wonderful people. But the investors were more upset than I was. I was very upset.
So did they agree to stop doing it?
Oh yeah, they never did it again. But you can't take, that's like going in and deciding I want to know what the sex of my baby is, and they tell you, and then you say, oh no, take it back, I never wanted to know. You know what I mean? Once they have once they have that information, they got it. They can go back to it at any time, decide anything. And you do want to keep that separate, because, you can have one person who does decide. And I have pretty happy investors, thank God, but you can have one that decides that they're just not happy, and they can cause problems.